you've been here now 4 years,
Yeah.
and Coach mentioned after the game on Saturday that for some of you it's starting to hit that the season's quickly coming closer to an end. So to have senior day coming up, what are the emotions kind of behind that game?
Yeah, it's bittersweet, as you can imagine, but I'm just glad to be able to go out there and play it with my boys, in a place that I love, that we all love to play ball. And in a moment like this, at the end of the season that we're having, the pressure that we have for this game, for it to be senior night, it feels like I wouldn't want it any other way. It makes you want to go out there and win even more.
When we talked to you after the Marshall game, you said that, it was career high numbers for you, but you weren't happy at all with kind of your performance. What goes into creating that mindset that even when you're all over the field, you're noticing the small issues that went wrong?
It's just how we grade ourselves, even throughout the week. We always talk about the air is thin. You can't let certain mistakes slip. Okay, you made this mistake, but we ended up coming out with a victory last week. But if we play them against another team and you do the same thing, it might not be the same result. So it's just going in with that mindset and knowing, there's always room for improvement for everybody. We always preach that the best get better. That's something that my coach, Dave Plungus, has been telling me every week, as far as, I go through my preparation and just how to get better and how to lead myself. He'll tell me, the best ways to get better. So always have that mindset.
What's it like when you get, into the locker room after a game like you guys had this weekend and you start watching film later on and you see like just a stat like 1 yard given up on the ground rushing? What kind of is the emotion behind that, and what kind of feeling do you guys have after having that performance?
It all goes back to those run fits. Those run fits during the summer, the spring, we do run fits after practice every single day as a defense, and that just shows that we take pride in stopping the run. We had a bitter taste in our mouth leaving the Marshall game. That was the most rushing yards we gave up all season, and we weren't proud of that. We felt like we didn't put the brand out there as defensively, and we wanted to get that back this week.
I wanted to ask what you've seen from Drew Spinagati this season, and how he's kind of grown over the season. He almost came away with that pick on Saturday, but just how have you seen him grow as the season's going on?
He's taking big strides day by day, just maturing as a player and on and off the field. I love seeing how his preparation and has changed, and how he goes about the game mentally. As you guys know, he's a freak out there on the field. He has great explosiveness, great instinct. He's a physical guy, always around the ball. But, it's the pre-snap stuff, his thought process that I'm seeing going up day by day. His intentionality in the meeting room, in the film room, after practice and those run fits, is those little things behind the scenes that's making him a better player.
At this point in preparation, what are you seeing from Wazoo's offense so far?
I just was in the D-staff meeting, an hour or so before this. And, heavy downhill run scheme, and then trying to set up play-action shots deep. And, we got to stop the run. That's what the story was this week with App State. That's what it was last week with Marshall. You got to stop the run. And they're going to try to manage the clock, manage the game, low-scoring game. We just got to get off the field as soon as possible, get the ball back in the offense's hands.
This being a non-conference game just so late in the year, just what are your impressions of that, and how is you guys' approach going into a matchup like this?
We treat it like it's another game. This is a big game. We could almost say it's even more important than the in-conference games, if you look at it through the lens of where we're trying to go after the season. But, we got to go in and play them. We know they're going to come in and play us hard. They've never played us. They've never played anybody in the conference, but they're going to come in. They know what type of ball we play and what type of place Bridgeforth is. So we're expecting to get their best shot, especially late into the season.
Do they have any similar characteristics of anybody you've seen at all this year? Like, even if it's like just one or two things, are they truly different than anybody you've seen before?
Watching them today, I'm getting like a little bit of Raging Cajun vibes from their offense. Seeing a whole lot of 12 personnel pictures, a whole lot of downhill run schemes, +1 run game, short yardage situations with the quarterback. Little lead zones and stuff like that with the running back following him. They got some good tight ends that go in there like the block. The kids that they recruit, just watching them play on tape. They got a good running back too. Running back gives me almost number 7 from Texas State, watching them on tape. He plays good. He turns his legs well, has a high motor. He pretty much, he can run through good tackles, so got to fit them up well. But when I watched him so far, that's really the vibes that I was getting. They're really going to try to stay to the run game more than like other teams that we've played so far who might sprinkle in the run, but expect that our run defense is going to be overpowering that their offense. But I feel like they're going to keep going with the run game the whole time.
I was sitting up in the booth as you guys were at midfield after Wayne caught the punt when you guys were warming up. And you were talking to the team. Coach was on the outside listening, and I wish I could have been there to hear what you were saying to your teammates at that point in time as you guys are getting ready for that game. How much pride do you take in being such a leader on this team. You love this place. You stuck through the thick and thin and are where you are right now because of your hard work. But how much pride do you take in being a captain of this team and being such a leader?
I'm just blessed and appreciative of my other teammates, especially the other leaders like, your Wayne and your JTs and your Alonzos that feel comfortable letting me address the team before the game. That's big, obviously, and that's important. And, I just tell the guys around me, play for each other around. We put in all the work. The work is already put in. Now is the moment to go. She put a smile on it. It's a happy spot. We're in a happy space. And just go out there and let it rip. We already did everything that we said we were going to do as far as prepping and what you're going to eat, how to get your body right, how to train, how much film you watch. So when it's Saturday, it's just time to let it fly. I don't want you to think. I don't want you to think about mistakes and this, that, and the third. Just go out and just be who you are. And that's pretty much what I tell them every single week. It's nothing too crazy, but, something to get a little juice before the game.
I'm sure it's exactly those words, right? For you, though, is this the most consistent team you've seen day in and day out with your practice regimen and everything that you guys do that you've been on?
Yeah, I would say so. Years there's always going to be players with consistency as far as, how they prep and how they go throughout the week. But I feel like this year, especially speaking defensively, the way we work as a unit, we do a whole lot of stuff as a unit this year, especially, watching film and in the unit meetings and having holistic knowledge of the whole defense. Defensive linemen are understanding why they're rushing this type of way. You're rushing this way because they're playing cover zero behind you, or you're rushing this way because they might run the ball. It might be sequencing, so you have to rush this way. Expect to hit. He might run the ball. He might keep it right now. And there's little stuff like that that just allows the players to be able to do their job faster. We always talk about defenses knowing where your help is, and it couldn't be any more true. Because as a linebacker, what I'm thinking when I'm doing my job is, okay, what's my safeties doing behind me, and what are my linemen doing in front of me, how that's going to affect my job. And now that everybody else is on the field thinking the same thing about, okay, what am I doing, and what is the man next to me doing, it helps us all play as one.
You were asked about Drew Spinagati earlier, but I thought Studio came in and played great the other day, too, with Feek being out. Does that show kind of the consistency part of it, too, where everybody stays ready when their number is called?
Yeah, that just – the ones, the twos, the threes, whoever goes in, you're expected to go out there and put out a certain product, the brand. We always preach the brand is a brand. So whoever goes out there, we're expecting you to go out and do your job. Coaches trust you, the players trust you to go out there and represent James Madison defense. So you see the LBs. It's always a great time to see the LBs going and splash, man. Always a great time. And I'd like to send my condolences to Feek, too, man. That was my roommate in the hotel on the travel games. And he's been here since I've been here when I first moved in as a linebacker freshman year. And he was helping me learn how to be a linebacker and learn how to play defense for James Madison and learn how to, study tape. And, he's really good mentally on what he does with the game ever since we were young. And I thought Feek was way older than me when we moved in. I didn't know he was my age until last year because he was just like a, older guy and like a mentor to me. So, it's sad to see him go down, but, his head's still up high.
Is there anything special about this senior class, compared to the other classes, when y'all's bond? Kind of tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, because we had multiple opportunities to separate and go our own ways. But I feel like the guys who stay here really have a good thing going. We're really tight, and it's gonna go even way after ball, even way after this season. However it ends, the relationships I've been able to create in this locker room and in this town are truly special, man. And I'm blessed for all the people that I've been able to meet and for my brothers that I've been able to meet. It's been a good 4 years, and, it'll be a good lifetime with them.
What's it like being at this point in the season knowing that you guys have that Sun Belt East title locked up right now?
I was here when we didn't have a chance to play for the Sun Belt East, and we had our own little posters and our own celebration for being Kings of the East. I'm sure y'all remember that. But I've just been imagining, especially this week, walking into the facility, seeing that picture of those guys holding up that trophy. We can't wait for them to pave that down and put a new picture of us on there. That's what we really want. We really want to hoist that trophy up on this field, if possible, for another home game.
Wayne, Coach talked a little bit about this on Saturday. Trent just talked a little bit about it as well. But just to know 2 years ago, you were at a point where you were in the portal mid-season, maybe not where you wanted to be on the depth chart, and now you're back here, and you're almost leading the nation in all-purpose yards. Just what is it about this coaching staff, about this program, that you wanted to stick it out here?
Yeah, James Madison is always a place that, I've always dreamed of being at. And just being able to get the opportunity to get back on this field and be a part of this program was definitely a huge and special moment, a part of my life that I was able to get the opportunity to get back on the team. And Coach Chesney bringing me back, he opened up his arms to me and he welcomed me to the family. He allowed me to, just get my opportunity so that I could, produce for this program and allow us to be successful, in the past year that we've been in, and just continue to uphold that success.
Now, obviously you guys ended up with over 600 yards on Saturday, but those first few drives, it did take a second to get things going. What do you think that sort of turning point was after those first couple drives that sort of got the offense going?
Yeah, we preach about starting fast all the time. That's a huge emphasis on what we do and how we go about things in practice, on a day in and day out basis. Just being able to stay resilient throughout those hard times and, these negative plays that may happen early on. It's just a huge testament to kind of, the resiliency we've built up throughout this, year and this season and, upcoming and all the preparation and all the things we've done before the season started. Just a testament to, the training we do and everything that we've done mentally to be able to stay focused in those kind of situations.
What's it like preparing for a team right now in Washington State that, you guys don't have that common opponent with, and it's a bunch of fresh faces for you all?
Yeah, every game's a new face, a new opponent. Nameless faces is kind of like what I like to say. They're a good football team, and no matter who it is, just being able to stick to what we have to do in our roots and everything that we do in our preparation, has to remain the same, regardless of who it is, whether it's an in-conference opponent or out-of-conference opponent. So.
In their last 6 games, they're only giving up 11.5 points per game. What are they doing on the defensive side of the ball? Like, what have they done to find their groove really in these last 6-7 games or so?
Yeah, that's a really good defense. They do a lot of things to be able to change it up and, give offenses eye candy and being able to stack the box. A big testament is just being able to stop the run, and they've done a really good job at that, throughout this year. And, you see it against their tougher opponents, holding them under 30 points and, sticking out in those tough games. Just being able to stack the box and force teams to be able to put the ball in the air and make plays.
How did this offseason kind of differ from maybe the other off seasons you've had in your life? Did it feel different? Do you feel like you had an extra bit of preparation maybe in the work you had in your own time that a big season like this could be in the future?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we attack every offseason, kind of with the same mentality, especially these past 2 years with, this staff and this joining the program. I think a big testament to it is just kind of being able to continue to build these relationships, inside and outside of football, whether it's doing extracurriculars outside of, team activities or whatever the case may be, and being able to bond with your brothers, on a deeper level has really, been a big turning point for, our success and just allows us to stay glued together through our hard times and, even the good times.
And then being up for the Paul Hornig Award, what is that? Have you been able to kind of, soak that in a little bit at all? Do you look into it too much, or do you just not really pay attention to that?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what the award was, until it was announced. Definitely, a big accomplishment, just being able to, be, show for the things I've done this season. But, don't think too much about it. We have opponents and, things and goals that we want to reach as a team, that's not really, going to help the team moving forward. So just being able to stay locked into everything that we have to do in our preparation just to continue to have the success that we've been having. So.
Since the Georgia State game, you guys have had at least 400 yards or more of offense and a couple of 600-yard games. What's been the key since that game to be so consistent offensively?
I think, early in the season, we did, put a lot of mistakes on film and, things that we just needed to clean up. And everyone was well aware of it, and everyone dialed into the things that we needed to fix. So just being able to watch more film and, really dial into the small details that we've been missing on, offensively, just being able to click. And everybody just dialed into it and, really understood what was the, issues and things that we need to continue to fix. And just being able to continue to do that, has helped us put these points on the board.
Done a lot of work in the offseason with you've always people labeled you a third down back because you were a shorter back when you first got here, but you've taken a lot of pride in catching the football, haven't you, out of the backfield so much, and again now you lead the team in receptions?
Yeah, 100%. Just a little help from Lil Bro, him being a wide receiver, just being able to show me some of those small intricacies of the game of being a receiver. And, just being able to add that, to my game has been very useful for us this season. And, just kind of makes us a little more dangerous on offense. So just being able to continue to, stress defenses in that aspect of the game is going to be huge for us.
Do you know how many catches he has?
I don't.
I was going to check to see if you have more than him. We'll have Chris check that out. But how about the punt return game? That's something that your brother did a year ago. But what makes a good punt returner, and why do you like being back there so much?
You know, what makes a good punt returner is just being able to be poised back there, you know, understanding the wind, you know, understanding the punter that you're going against, and you know, some of those small things that allow you to, you know, just be successful back there. Just being able to stay poised most of the part is just a big part of, you know, having success back there. And then, yeah, just being able to understand that when you get the ball, you're going to have a lot of space, you know, majority of the time. And, you know, I like to be in space with, you know, a lot of green grass around me. So, you know, just being able to be dynamic in that aspect.
Talk about your offensive line. Obviously, you couldn't do a lot of what you're doing without those guys. They've been very consistent. I know Joe missed the Marshall game. Other than that, they've stayed pretty healthy throughout most of this year. What are you seeing up front from those guys?
Just straight grit. You know, they're the best in the league and, you know, arguably in the country. And them guys, they just, you know, they work day in and day out, you know, whether it's in practice or whether it's in the game. You know, there's never no let up, you know, regardless of what they do. So, you know, that's just a huge testament to the, you know, Coach Smith and all the preparation that he does with them, just allowing them to have success, you know, on Saturdays, which helps out the running back. So,
Yamir has 37. You have 35.
Okay.
Got a little work to do.
A little more work to do. That's all it is.
Do you enjoy that part of the game, though? I mean,
yeah.
I know you love going between the tackles, but to be a 3-down back where you've got to take on blitzes and stuff too. Yeah. I mean, you worked hard to become a 3-down back, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%. You know, in that aspect of the game, you know, a lot of the times I'm catching the ball with a lot of green grass around me. So definitely enjoy that part of the game, just being able to make people miss in space and, you know, kind of like what I said, you know, stress defenses in a way to, you know, make them think, you know, another step. So that's part of the game definitely, you know, helps this offense a lot.
Is there a little bit of this game playing for the seniors and sending them out the right way? Maybe it may not be their last game at Bridgeforth, but potentially, do you play for them a little bit more this week?
100%. You know, a lot of them boys, you know, I came to JMU with, and just being able to, you know, send them boys out the right way, you know, whether this is going to be the last game or not, you know, we're going to play hard for them guys, you know, all the hard work and dedication that they've put in, and, you know, the time that they spent at James Madison University is definitely valuable to this program, and, you know, we can never let it go, you know, unseen or unheard of, so.
I know Dave was talking about how your role has sort of grown over the last year, and it may be hard to narrow it down to one or two things, but where do you feel you've grown or changed the most as a runner this past season?
Definitely, you know, gaining confidence, you know, in between the tackles and, you know, understanding that you have to have that mentality, you know, whenever you're on the football field. And then, you know, just being a 3rd-down back and being able to catch the ball at the backfield, you know, is definitely a huge part of our success, you know, this season. And it really just stresses defense in a lot of ways, so.